Yes. Is anyone still upstairs? No. Good. This is us. This is us. Okay, so you have to drive this screen. That's in a second. You get it up. Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to our Thursday afternoon seminar or colloquium that we have every Thursday. Use something that started online during lockdown, and now it's so great to be in person. And it's also great that people can fly again. So it's really wonderful to have two close collaborators, colleagues, friends visiting us here today from the UK. Indirectly from the UK, but originally from Zimbabwe. So I'd love to introduce to you, Dr. Miche Lewin and Dr. Flora Gathorne-Hardy, brilliant, known as Miche and Flora. And we met about, in 2015, I think, during a seminar, sustainability, that's something we showed up. And I think they are friends and collaborators here, from even longer and much deeper kind of engagements and time. So we've shared a journey together, and Miche and Flora is also part of or affiliated to CORE, which is a center of agriculture and water resilience at Coventry Garden in the UK. And we have a formal exchange agreement with them, the CST together, and we've done several kind of iterations of collaboration together with each other. Some of our students have been to CORE, and also this is an invitation to students who might be online or here, that if you're interested in spending some time at CORE, that would also be possible as part of the collaboration. But today, I think we're here to kind of catch up on what Miche and Flora have been doing since Miche has finished a PhD, and all the kind of deep learning and journeys you've been having with your writing, with your intellectual thought, with your ideas, your practice, and also in how you share that. So thank you very much for being with us. Today's topic is called the art of sympoiethics. And I will, leave the stage, welcome you into taking over the conversation and guiding us into your space. And wonderful, and thank you for being here and being willing to sacrifice your vacation, exploring time and journeying with us.
Thank you, just as a final. So, to open our space, which is how do we invite the sacred into the everyday? Well, sometimes it's just as simple as remembering to light a candle. The spirit is with us. So maybe just to share, we have beautiful gifts here, which come from gardens and from care and love and attending to the earth's bounty. We have some soil, which has come from the CST. And that soil is something that we really work with as a metaphor, as well as the matter of it as a substance, to remember that living soil is what helps keep the planet in balance and our bodies in good nurturance. And there's some other things here which later we'll be doing an interactive session with you in the second part of our presentation. But welcome everybody. We feel we're amongst friends, some that we know from long time, and some who are new to us. And Rika, thank you so much for the invitation. So, and we also have friends from afar who are with us virtually, so welcome to you all as well. So, we're just awaiting the slideshow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we also have, the CST does have a memorandum of understanding with, as Rika mentioned, with the Center for Agroecology, Water and Resilience, which now is under the umbrella of the Institute for Equity, Sustainability and Resilience. So I think we have even closer alliances to be making between the UK and South Africa. So the art of sympoiethics.
It's gonna remain at this size, I think.
And are those who are with the screen able to see our presentation, who are virtually with us?
No, it's just a white screen.
I only see a white screen. I'm sure it will come up.
Okay, okay, fantastic. Wonderful. I think technology is with us now.
Good now, thanks.
So yes, so hello. Distracted. So I'm Flora. Miche. We practice. We have a really wonderful privilege of being both practicing artists and also having another foot firmly in the world of research. And our collaborative practice, which is called Studio Fabre-Hardy, a bit of our names, is dedicated to restoring the power of art and ritual for flourishing kinship, not only with each other, but with each other as part of an animate world. And we've been working together for about 15 years as artist researchers.
Keep the laptop on your lap.
Keep it with me.
And then you can see it and talk to it.
Love
You
it.
have to move. And Flo, move across a little bit because you're out of view.
Oh my goodness,
There we go.
Miche.
Well, we had the lighting of the candle. We also set good intentions for our time with each other and create a thought environment, which is one that's about abundance and about our capacity to rekindle our authentic being as human beings within this extraordinary world of ours. So that's a very important part of us really setting a bounded intention for what it means to live a life as a human being on this planet, which has such a lot of complexity and such a lot of bounty. And how do we keep that energy bright? How do we keep live to what is potential and to our extraordinary capacity for change? So that is part of how we would like to invite a recognition that everything is possible. And that with all the difficulties, the obstacles, the transgressions, the trespasses that happen in many different areas of our lives, that keeping that intention about our extraordinary human capacity, which Mandela once referred to in his speech, which was a quote that he took from Marianne Williamson, which is that we're not frightened of our, what gives us fear is not our smallness, but our absolute magnificence. So let us all be magnificent with each other here today as we take you through what it means to cultivate a practice of the sacred in the everyday, which is to just recognize that life is a continuum. We are in a continuous responsiveness to everything that is around us, and we as human beings are part of that ecosystem. And so it's about gratitude for our sentient capacity to be alive in this time with each other. Thank you.
This image, which is quite small for you to see, is of two artworks which we did when we first started collaborating together in 2010. And on the left-hand side is an artwork called Farmer's Power Place, and on the right is an artwork called Thinking Food. And these we describe as thought pictures, so the intention is for people to engage with them over time. But why we're sharing them today is because they're a little map of our the fields of our work as artists, researchers. So my commitment is towards farming in the land and the arena of agroecology.
And mine is asking the question, how can we think differently about food, and how can food help us think differently? And so Thinking Food became a map for my PhD, and it's about the sacred nature of what food is, not just for the belly, but what is food to a culture, what is food to spirit, what is food as a soul nourishment as well as a physical nourishment.
The first sort of dimension of our art and research practice we wanted to share was the idea of the co-labour, the collaboration. So 5 years ago we were here during a PhD and we had the honour of sharing what was emerging, which was a method where at the outset of Miche being invited to do a PhD on her work, she said, yes, I will, as long as I can have a thinking, listening partner. So I was engaged.
She became my method.
I am. What a method! We're looking at a method, a pioneering method, no doubt. So you know, if there's one place where you're told that you are thinking alone, it's a PhD, a doctoral research. This is meant to be your original, unique, personal contribution. So it was very interesting being alongside Miche. My brief was to support her thinking, but not to mess with her thinking. And the way I supported it was on many levels, partly practical, be there to document, record, take notes, provide bottles of water when you were mid-interview and thirsty, but also to witness wholeheartedly what she was doing, and then reflect back through the way that I discovered I could best do that, which was through drawing. And so the drawings that emerged, this is a drawing of having witnessed Miche doing a ritual with food, and at first it's an intuitive drawing, so it's an automatic drawing. I don't know what I'm drawing, but at the end, once it has been drawn, we then put tracing paper over it, and together we inquire into what from my body has come, what from my limbs, from my senses, from my eyes, from my heart, from my guts has come forward. And this particular drawing was very useful. In the end, we interpreted it as it was almost like the ritual was a sort of birthing process. And for example, one thing we noticed that there was this presence of this dark form here pushing into the space, the sacred space. And when we really deeply inquired into what was this dark form that was interrupting or pushing in, it was clock time. So it's a very useful technique. And what I wanted to share with you both, which was that for me, this journey of being somebody's thinking, listening partner was so profound because it really helped me strengthen who I was, while strengthening who Miche was. So we individually flourished through a dedication to each other's growth. And there was, over time, the muddy waters that I occasionally created became stiller and clearer. And I developed my own practice. So it's a real call for people doing research to call out for experimenting, innovating ways of not thinking alone. We don't think alone. So just making it more visible how we can think alone ethically with appropriate protocols.
So my PhD was very determinedly written up with the body and the mind together, that we are not separate. And our Jewish cultures try to keep body and mind separate, art and science separate. And part of the way in which I constellated that union was through art, but it wasn't just art as a commodity, not art just as a product, but it was artful, and there was a kind of canny notion to that, because we do need to be quite mischievous if we want to sort of circumvent the status quo and sort of get in and under and a bit underground and a bit above. So artful, I love that idea of the artful, but it was also because it brought in art as a practice and a process that is part of that continuum of the becoming, of the dynamic nature of life. And that I think for us all, art is a way of making sense. It's not necessarily through language, but through sound, through movement, through gesture, through mark. And so I began to work with that concept of the artful body-mind as a way of reconnecting with my own authenticity, my own true nature, my own way of being, showing up as a whole human being in this culture. And so in order to do that, I had to go back into my own biography. I had to discover how I interweaved my own capacities within encounters that I shared with other people. How did my research inquiries actually show up as part of my body-mind? and that to recognize that as a flowing, energized human being, guess what? I am only alive because everything that is around me has some kind of connection to me. Right in this place, the human beings, the carrots, the candle, the outdoor trees, we are all part of an extraordinary ecosystem. And that I kept very high in my mind throughout my PhD, my body mind. So that's why I think we've been this has been called a transformative methodology, because first of all, there was the innovation of a thinking, listening partner, but there was also a way of creating a thesis that actually in its expression, there were no chapters. It was an ongoing kind of spiraling of what I called constellations. And Rika was my South African advisor, who was very instrumental in helping me understand that it was the art that was my teacher, to understand how the art was my methodology. So that's why art was very important. And going back to what the origins of the word art are, it comes from a Sanskrit word, arita, and arita also encapsulates ritual. And if we go back to the Sanskrit word means that continuing, unfolding rhythms of dissolving and becoming within the world where we evolve our beingness. So, and then my external supervisor, my external examiner, David Haley, has written about Rita, and he talks about it as a synergy of materials, forms, and processes. Again, a dynamic movement from which all arises. So how can I not choose art? It's my primary medium for understanding consciousness. Art is a work of consciousness. And then the ritual becomes the space where creating contemporary ritual creates the permission, because ritual has a cultural form, a cultural process. It helps us to understand what we need to do. It creates alternative ways of living. So I constellated this form as a bounded form in which we could become a little more conscious of ourselves as human beings within our ecosystem, with some space and some safety as a container within which to come to know. So it could be in that becoming mode, but with matter, with compost, with fermenting cabbage, with sun hives, with honey. So that bounded space of the ritual holds potential for being a refugia, where we can actually reconfigure our own humanity. And then we are strong enough and ready to go out into the world.
This is a story, a short story of one of those Thanksgiving food rituals that we shared during her PhD. She actually wasn't part of it in the end, but it's called Field Table. I'm just trying to think if anyone here actually was at Field Table. I think Charles was. So the process of devising the food ritual was she began by getting to know and building relationship with the growers who were producing farming with nature within a few miles of Stellenbosch. And here she is with Aaron, who was working at the Sustainability Institute, looking over his plot. And then in a field in which the cattle, the beef cattle, were grazing, of whom the biltong we were eating, this table was laid. And the important thing about the table is partly who's around the table, which is a real diversity of young agroecology students from the SI and Elsenburg Agricultural Institute, the editor of the National Farmers, I can't remember what your union equivalent is, a journalist, landowners, educational leaders, chefs, cooks, and the growers. So the stakeholders, the web of life that is, I read today a lovely thing, it's not the food chain, it's the food circle, it's the food cycle. Here's the food cycle around the table, and the food they're eating is being grown by the people at the table. And the important thing about this event was that there was built into the ritual this time for reflection.
You see, if you're an artist, you can actually ask people to take risks and do curious things that they would not normally expect to do at a dinner table or an eating table, which is to think about what they had experienced.
And we just felt it was right to share some of the words. So in terms of thinking about ritual as a method of participatory inquiry. People were asked a question, they had an experience.
The question was, what are you hungry for? And at the end of the meal, how has your hunger been satisfied?
The writing is small. I don't know if people can read it or want it read out, but can you all see?
Let's read out as well, maybe. Just pick a few.
So the return of the sacred to the table has created time, space, and thinking partners to look at this hunger, to imagine its voice, its sounds, its texture, its feeling, and find out how to hear it and how to respond to it.
I am starving for food, for revolution to our food systems. Starving to see farmers doing away with the systems that harm the Mother Earth. I want food to be accessible to everyone because food is life.
And here's a few more. This was a sense of freedom, a chance to engage.
And a society where diversity is treasured, and that's not just diversity of biodiversity, it's diversity of human cultures. Where food is not wasted, where nature becomes and is most revered as a desirable thing, where the food and the conversation serve to respect the farmer, the cook, the soil, and ourselves. And I think maybe that's a good introduction to what sympoiethics is, because if we are really looking at what it means to be alive in this time of this on planet Earth, sympoiesis has a biological origin, which means that it is looking at the behavior of ecosystems which are interconnected, boundaryless, and synergistic. And that complements the concept of autopoiesis, which is about the bounded system and the self and the interdependent unique system. We are autopoietic inside our sympoietic cultures. A tree is an autopoietic example of the sympoietic forest. So it's about how we are all interconnected, but we do have that individuality, that uniqueness. And it's that idea that sim is to do with making with, poiesis is to make, sim is to be with. So it's again back to that idea of responsiveness. If we understand that we are in a responsiveness, that every gesture, every action, every thought has consequence, then we become aware of what is going on in our body minds, our actions, our gestures. So I love this notion of sympoiesis, which is a very undercover, underground. Beth Dempster has written about it in 2000. People are still celebrating. She's a woman, you see. They are still celebrating the two men who founded the concept of autopoiesis in 1937. And that is still seen as the god of this kind of way of understanding our relationship, interrelationship with the world. So I added ethics as part of my PhD, so that was my contribution to knowledge, to add the word ethics to really convey that actually if we are deeply, inherently integrating that understanding of sympoiesis in our everyday lives, that we are in a continual relationship with everything around us, the people, the matter, the sentience of the world, there is no way that our actions cannot be ethical. Because that is what nature invites, that natural order. The principle would be that we would have behaviors that are ethical. We don't have to legislate for ethical behaviors. We have to legislate for unethical behaviors. So that was why sympoiethics became a way of constellating, living a practice of the sacred in the everyday, without having to be nuns or priests.
Just to...
And we were really looking for you to have time with us, so yeah. Let's see what should we...
So maybe we want to end by just sharing a couple of projects that we're engaged with now. So you've had a bit of a story of where we've been. The first project we wanted to share is a wonderful project, which is emerging. Miche recently got some funding from the UK Arts Council.
Can I just say that if the Arts Council can give you grant funding for exactly what I've shared with you, we know that something's going right. Yes. I got a big grant to continue my research as an artist with no strings attached. Just follow food. I added sound and collaboration with musicians as part of that.
So this is a piece of work that Miche is doing, exactly exploring the idea of sound and frequency and the way in which food and music have always been entwined in the kind of the birthing and the rebirthing of culture. So Miche is working with a musician called Anna Mudeka, who is Zimbabwean and who lives in the east of England where we live, and is she's Zimbabwean creative sister. And here there's a picture of them in the kitchen at home, studio kitchen.
I am making an African meal. I'm making a Zimbabwean meal for my Zimbabwean sister with maraku and sadza and nyama.
And she's improvising, listening to the sounds of the cooking and improvising with those sounds. And so we made a very short 1-minute film.
I also did a very European thing, which you will see here too.
So this is a very short film. Did those who can't see want to come in and see the films? You can see, okay. So this is a let's see. That's a distorted sound. So
She's playing in the
after the session, I'll put the laptop on and you can hear the music that's being made. What you would be hearing is Vera and the sounds of cooking mingling and singing.
voice.
And the song that emerges is just called Gratitude.
And we have been invited to present this work, this performative piece, performative ritual, at a festival in Norfolk, which is about a conversation about race. So it's about showing another way of being in a relationship of trust between cultures and food and music.
So the umbrella for this piece of work that you're involving is cultures of belonging, and how can the arts, the everyday arts, the improvised arts, help explore, restore, nurture cultures of belonging, recognizing that food, soil, music making, these are shared lands to explore together. And that is then being complemented by a piece of work that I'm leading on, that we're doing together, called For the Love of the Field. And this is a really beautiful project where we've been given guardianship of a field in close to where we live, and we're looking to reimagine how this land can be tended from the point of view of learning to listen with the land, with the communities of people, but also the communities of soil, plant, animal. And here is a photograph of the field, quite dimly lit. Here it is in monocropping, so it's already begun to be transformed. And this short through ritual praxis. So again, we're using rituals of gratitude, rituals of tree planting, rituals of lamentation, mourning what has happened to the field, as a way, and witnessing its cycles, as a way of understanding what the next step is with the field. And this short film was made, again, which I think I'll leave to show on the laptop, but we made a 1-minute film called Tending. And the idea of this short film, it was shown by a really remarkable initiative called the Centre for the Less Good Idea in Johannesburg, co-founded by William Kentridge. And the idea of tending, the idea of what that intimacy, that touch with the land allows in terms of coming to know what to do.
This was part of a fire ritual in conversation with the moon, and just being on the field, just being with the field. That was at the end. Oh yeah, we created an open fire. We found a space that's very safe, just off the field.
So that would be something to watch. And it's all of these resources we meant they're all available online on our website, so if you want to look later. And where we wanted to sort of land at this point was to tease out, which is what the work you did, to tease out some of the conditions,
10 minutes before sending my PhD for its final print to go to the external examiners, I said, Flora, I know I've got 9 conditions, but we hadn't written them up. I just got these 9 conditions, and 10 minutes before I pressed it, these are our 9 conditions. So everyone can find a way.
Yeah. So gratitude, how that helps.
Spaciousness of time.
Recognizing that there is intelligence in that oak tree.
Imaginal knowing, always opening up to the imagination and its potential.
Trusting the gut, the hands, the heart, the eyes, the ears to give you information that's hugely valuable.
Co-laboring with a fellow citizen. Hello.
Hi. Liberation, healing. Every encounter is a potential for growth, honest, fierce, loving exchange, liberation.
And the capacity to mess up, we should be putting that in there.
Yeah.
Convivial food sharing as a political practice.
And beauty as a political practice. Beauty reflecting, valuing these gifts have reflected back to us, this space, this moment, the value of what we're all doing here together. So, and we wanted to end, with a riffing.
We'll riff. So I just opened this book up, which I call Bibliomancy, and a lot of my PhD was done that way. A book fell out the library, or I went to a library, I chose a book, and I just did like, oh my goodness, that's very much about. This is what came up. This is an extraordinary book. It's about the concept of exousiance, a different kind of power, by a black feminist, Mina Salami. She's Yoruba and Finnish, and she's really well worth following. And she has come up with this concept of exousiance, which means power. But it's power not above, not against, not even under. It's power from within, and that we all have it, and that's what connects us all. So she calls it sensuous knowledge. So this is what I will read. We've spoken a lot about matter and how the sentience of matter can help us to heal, and why we do the work with the soil, with the food, and with the sentience of our planet. And she writes about stories. Stories turn into knowledge, and knowledge transforms into matter. The dualist worldview separates matter from story. That narrative is matter, from which we build our worldview, which in turn becomes physical objects, books, buildings, and borders. Just as in our bodies, knowledge also transforms into matter. Just as the first structure that forms in the human embryo is the spinal cord, so too is knowledge the spine of all other ideas that shape our lives. How we move and feel in the world, the air we breathe, the health of our trees, the food we eat, the ideologies we support, the way we dance and make love are all reflections of what we know. So let's be really aware of how we come to know.
What is your name again?
Mina Salami.
Mina.
Salami.
So, our practice began as touchstones because we realized the touchstone has capacity. It's a basalt stone. It comes from deep in the earth, and it is a stone that is used to strike an ore on it to see if that ore is true gold or false gold. So we have used this touchstone as a metaphor for what it means to invite our true genius from each other by being in a listening, thinking space with each other. So we would like to invite you to turn to someone close by to you. Choose a touchstone between you. So you have your gold mark there, so you know it's a true gold. And then we're going to invite you to be in a sacred thinking, listening, feeling space with each other. To listen with your hearts to each other, and we'd like to ask a question. So one person chooses to be whoever's holding the stone. You are going to be the listener. You are going to give the touchstone of your heart and your whole body, mind listening to the talker. So the touchstone is the listener, and the talker, the theme is how. I have to think this one out. How would a collaborative thinking listening partner make a difference to your life? As a human being, as a researcher, as an artist, as an agriculturalist, how would a thinking listening partner, collaborator in your life make a difference? So just from your heart, from your head, from your body, mind.
And we'll do how many minutes each?
We've each got 3 minutes.
And I'll be time queen. I'll make a sound after 3 minutes.
And remember, you are going to be the listener is giving no comments. It's just listening with absolute attention, with confidence in the person's capacity to think aloud. Essentially, you're thinking out loud as another human being in witness and giving the greatest loving reception to your thinking.
For those folk online.
Hang on, there's someone just
A question
Yes.
for clarity. So the listener, the stone holder, holder of the essence, is basically opening up the window for the
is witnessing
witnessing,
and listening.
listening and
Exactly.
listening.
No comments.
3 minutes to me,
And- Yeah, and then we will
Listening,
turn that round.
and then I'll hand over the stone.
Now, what about all of you?
Well, we had an idea, beloved online folk. If you can find something that's near you, even a sacred biro or a sacred
Some object
object,
that is meaningful to you.
and
Yes.
hold it for this time, and then maybe
You have 6 minutes.
and maybe in the chat box to write down any reflections that come forward. We'll honour those reflections, and you've also got a method you can experiment with after this presentation.
Right. Okay, the 3 minutes. Okay, so you've got your ready to go. The touchstone listener is receiving and being witness to the talker.
Also explore how I can internalize But I guess that's part of this. Normally you have a conversation. When you're doing the cooking process, you actually have to explore what you're actually without having this expectation that every 10
So time to just finish the last sentence of the speakers. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Is it like
A swift switch.
switching over now to take the other turn?
There's 3 minutes.
The real value all my and then of course it's just a great way.
Online folk, your 6 minutes is up. Human, hello. Imagine the bell. Ding a ling a ling a ling a ling. Thank you very, very much.
Is there a way of seeing everybody who's actually online?
Oh, look, here's the...
Let's start with the
Yeah.
if we could all reconvene. And we're going to start. Thank you so much for your virtual participation. Flora's going to read them out.
So we've got a beautiful one here. A thinking partner would be like a soft, fluffy duvet to let all my mind chaos fall into. It would mean radical love to receive and accept me in uncensored ways as I wayfare through myself and ideas. It would mean commitment and connection and contract. Look, 3 C's, all the things we actually want and enjoy. It could mean I see myself more clearly, fully and beautifully. It could result in a more satisfying coherence. A thinking partner without listening for chinks in my armor. Beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone, for contributing. And then,
So they're all ready.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And now we're just going to open pool to anybody's reflections, thoughts, experience of this, or anything you'd like to bring up around our talk,
And
our
any
presentation.
questions again
Yes.
in the chat. If there's anyone online who wants to ask a question, please write it in the box and we can read it out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was thinking as a start, would it not be a good idea just to read out what we got from the other person? I mean, I don't know if anybody else did this, but we both wrote it down as the person was speaking, as we were listening. We wrote down our
Why don't we, just because of time, it'd be wonderful to have some, if people want to share some of what they experienced, that would be wonderful. Because in a way, the other point about why this is such a profound process is that there's an agreement of confidentiality.
Yes.
So the confidentiality is that whatever has been shared between the two of you is not referred to by the other unless you choose to ask a question or share a bit more about what you've shared. If you do feel that there's something in the material that you feel you have something to contribute to or you would like to know more of, you can ask your partner, can I refer to your session, as it were? So it's a very safe, containing space. And it does create a fantastic protocol of boundary. And I think there's a lot of gossip in the world. And this is a way of actually keeping ourselves clear and contained. And also it does allow us to reveal things that we might not necessarily feel that there's enough space or safety to do that. So sometimes some risky stuff can come out. And when you know that it's not going to be referred to by anybody else, it gives you the material to work with in another time. So please, that's a lovely invitation. If you'd like, anybody would like to reveal anything or share anything about what that experience was and what it felt like. Yes.
For me, this whole session has been a physical experience, and I started crying pretty much the moment you opened about, which was very interesting, and I was very surprised by that, and it was unexpected. And I realized, to go back to the quote that you referred to at the beginning, it also says that when you live in your light and you express it and you bring it, then you give permission for everyone else to do the same. And so to honor you as pioneers and as mentors, so that I can follow in my own footprints using this methodology and this way of changing myself, so I can change the world in the ways that I want to and can, and follow my passion in doing that. So thank you very much. It was a deeply emotional experience. Thank you.
Did you have to, having thought this up, is there something you'd like to share?
Well, I suppose I could maybe share, but I probably won't be able to read your writing.
Just something, an essence of what you share.
Well, I'm now, after God knows how many years, planning to do so, embarking on a transdisciplinary PhD, because you can never find enough heads to actually come together. So, and I feel that this, I was saying something, I think that maybe Shirini should write, say for me, is what I was saying, that how I felt it was the bridge between the secular aloneness and the complete collaboration is the bridge over which is the safety bridge between the two. And I feel that, yes, you're talking about the boundaries and so forth, but it also creates a bridge. So I can do this. I have now safely done the secular aloneness to the collaborator listener, and now I am ready to engage in the larger out there, which is always a scary position. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'd love to always give, we must always be aware as white people that we're not always jumping in first. So are there any other contributions that you'd like to share? That's a nice contribution.
Yeah, Rika will reflect on my reflection.
Okay.
I give you the permission to share.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. What is your name?
Amanda.
Amanda.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is wonderful to hear Amanda's story of how having become a mother last year.
Yeah.
During also giving birth to the PhD.
Yes.
Birthing, in the process of birthing the PhD. How that changed her view of herself, what she had to say, what she needed to write, how she had to show up for this project with the PhD, and how that also kind of offered an opening up of space for her and her partner, parent, to have different conversations. So it seems that your thinking, feeling partner was you birthed yourself one. How lucky are you that you could have done that? Someone to hold and think and touch and look after and talk to as the one that could help you think through the PhD. Wow. How amazing. Yeah. I was so touched by that. It's such a beautiful. Because often in PhD journeys, when people get pregnant and have babies, you see this baby as a burden. It's like, oh no, I don't have time to write and think and work. And you just said it so differently. You just said that, without her.
It felt a bit lonely and lost. And now it's just a sense of clarity and motivation and looking into her eyes and like, oh, she would want to hear something beautiful about me someday. So maybe I have to get this thing going and, just channel
what a
some good
wonderful,
energy.
what a creative way of receiving a collaboration. Because we can't find them everywhere, actually. If there's no human being around or we haven't had a baby, we can still. Any other?
Well, I'd like to just say, echo Liesel's comment, just feeling a great sense of gratitude for what you've shared with us today. And in particular, the fact of synchrodestiny. I'm struck by the fact that there is something that synchronizes as we co-create things. And I'm particularly aware of that in a discovery I've recently made that the mighty oak tree, and there's over 500 species, is a living musical instrument capable of playing any tune in any key. So that collaboration that you're talking about now is already happening in the Eikestad, right here, turning the Eikestad into the musical Eikestad.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our Swedish friends.
All the comments that have been made so far, but so profound. I feel a bit like kindergarten. But we kind of thought, me and him, if he doesn't mind me sharing that, the idea of actually having to speak for 3 minutes, it's not just about the listening, it's also about the actual, you have to speak uninterrupted, you have to think about, you have to, I'm not expecting to comment, because normally when you're in a conversation, you're thinking he's going to reply with something, he's going to make a comment, and that's not to say it's not going to be a well-meaning comment, it's going to be a very supportive comment. Now you're forced to actually try for 3 minutes straight and actually articulate and explore what is up here.
For me, it also feels like building on that, the fact that you're emptying yourself. You're emptying stuff that has been sitting in you for all this time, and you've been gifted the opportunity to hear yourself. And in hearing yourself, actually meet what feels like the God aspect of yourself come out. So what the other person enables is for you to access that godness, actually, that creative godness inside. And that just feels like an awesome gift.
Thank you. How beautifully both of you have expressed that we've done this in quite a few places, and we've chosen always to just give 3 minutes, because for us 3 minutes is like, oh no, I need much more time. But when you're starting out on this 3 minutes, we are so unused to being listened to, and to being heard, and not interrupted, and not given some kind of advice or some kind of, oh, that's my story too. That we don't know actually how to entice our own thinking outside of ourselves. You have a listening witness, gold. That's why we called it the touchstone of the gold. We have so much gold in us. Beautifully, beautifully. That was so. Remind me of your name.
Elliot.
Elliot. Thank you so much. It is. It's But it grows, I promise you. It grows. And then, can I respond to one of the digital, the virtual? Jacques, may I respond to you? You spoke about a thinking partner without listening for the chinks in my armor. The thing is, the chinks are part of your beauty. The chinks, armor, they're only chinks because there's armor. And if there's armor, it's only because we only grow our armor because there has been so much oppression in the world. You know, for men, for blacks, for children, for disabled, for Jews, for, you know, it's like we can go on and on with all the oppression and how our armor is actually it's our savior as well. It has got us to where we are. So a thinking partner is there to help you dissolve the armor when you choose to dissolve it. And by actually having the space to utter your own thinking, you start discovering you can also utter all those very tight and closely guarded feelings and traumas and distresses that we've all held on to because it's so fucking risky out there. How dare, who's going to listen? So it's always a place of compassion and incredible tenderness and love. That is the contract that we make as a thinking, listening partner. Thank you for bringing that up, Sean.
No, thank you for sharing that. Thanks, Miche.
Any others as we sort of bring this to a close? A little something might come through there.
As for myself, when I had those 3 minutes, I didn't say what I planned on saying, and I didn't realize what I said is what I felt at all. So it was very surprising. And even as I was telling her, it was a revelation to myself as well. And I couldn't stop it because it just kept spinning. Because she was just nodding and it just kept spinning. And I was like, what am I saying? Is this really me? Is this really true? So that was very shocking to me as well, that I could discover something only because I was forced to say it about. Yeah, until I said it, I didn't think I was that way.
So, and this will happen a lot. I mean, because that's, as you say, being given the permission, it's like you start actually unraveling a strand in yourself and threads in yourself that we've very skillfully kept hidden. But in fact, that's how our conversation as collaborators began, because Flora was looking for someone to kind of do some mentoring for her in her practice as a landscape designer. And one day I said, you know, I could just listen to you, share with me whatever's kind of, you know, what you're sort of struggling with in this particular project. And after half an hour, she had figured out what she needed to do. I had just said nothing. I had just witnessed and listened. And then she started doing the same for me. And then she started paying me. Instead of taking it somewhere else. Or she'd get a project and say, well, you know, it's going so well because of... But we learned things about each other that we would never have known, but because of that boundary of trust. And you have to set up those protocols with your collaborator. You know, no sharing of it outside, confidentiality. And if it gets to a place where there's some, you know, quite kind of emotional behavior, which there will be when you start getting surprised by what's coming out, the other person needs to just be able to hold and witness. The body has many things to be healing itself from because we have been so repressed in our cultures. Our education system has really not given us the chance to shine. So this is a place where things will come up because we have the trust and the bounty of someone else's attention. It is bound to then open us up. So then we close down after that 3 minutes. It's important to keep those boundaries. And why they're also important is you also know that you're giving something to someone back. So it's always equal. And that always makes you feel good. You don't feel you've kind of taken trespass on someone's time because you know that you're going to get something back and they're going to get something back. And that's a very equalizing relationship. But thank you for sharing that. And I think you did say your name. Your name is?
Alborita.
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 Alborita. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that it was a little teasing up. There's always something to be shared. And I thank you for having felt enough safety to share that with us, because that's really important. We will surprise ourselves with things inside us, but once they're out of us, they become material. They become the narrative that we can work with.
Miche's just going to end as a beautiful contribution. Is it Nina?
Yes.
So Nina's written here, Sympoiethics sounds like being as research rather than the more traditional practice as research. So
And
that's
that is from
So Nina.
Nina. What a wonderful way of, and in fact, my whole process of becoming the researcher that then wrote the PhD was because of Rika's fantastic exchange that we had, which said, Miche, your work is always about being with and becoming with. You never know what the outcome's going to be. So thank you. That's a beautiful. Let's start talking about that. Being as research. Love it. And then we have somebody. Jacques has. Shall we end with that beautiful quote from Jacques? No.
May the trees stay green and the stars white, and may there always be people who, without shame, can look each other in the eye, because life is as long as a breath.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you for all our on-screen participants, witnesses, collaborators.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of you who made it in presence.
Yeah.
And to Rika, of course, who said, will you come and do a bit of magic with me? And we said, what a question.
Yeah.
Always ready for magic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.